Hi, I'm Jorma Duran, news director and evening anchor for KREX-TV in Grand Junction. I'd like to take just 60 seconds to explain what you're about to watch. I was notified in early 2016 by our city's Legends of the Grand Valley Committee. Rex Howell would be the 9th and final statue to be created and displayed in downtown Grand Junction, completing an almost 10-year-long city project. We decided for every day leading up to the Rex Howell statue unveiling, we would feature the other legends, showcasing the impact of this person, team, or family who still have a direct impact on how area residents live to this very day. My team truly became invested in this, especially since the ending tribute of both our series and citywide event was to honor the founder of this station and the co-founder of the Colorado Broadcasters Association. So in just a moment, you will watch 9 stories, each featuring a legend of the Grand Valley that aired consecutively from June 16th to the 24th, culminating with the statue unveiling of Rex Howell, who not is only a legend of the Grand Valley, but a Colorado television legend as well.
Just outside of the Avalon Theater in downtown Grand Junction sits a statue of a man in a bathtub. But who is the man in the bathtub?
Dalton Trumbo was born in Montrose and moved to Grand Junction at a very early age and grew up and lived most of his life, early years, in Grand Junction.
Trumbo attended Grand Junction High School and began his writing career working for the high school's newspaper. After his father lost his job, he moved to California, which is where he wrote his first novel, Eclipse. And this novel didn't resonate well with some of the Grand Valley.
It became pretty evident that the stories he was telling were really true stories about people here in the Grand Valley, and a lot of the local people didn't like it. So they boycotted the book when it came out, and it kind of created a very negative feeling for him towards the Grand Junction area.
Soon after the release of his book, he began screenwriting in Hollywood, becoming one of the most successful writers of his time, until he was blacklisted for allegedly putting communist messages into his movies. But this didn't stop Trumbo from writing, as he continued to write under a pen name.
His movies were recognized and awarded Academy Awards while he was still being blacklisted in Hollywood.
Once accepted back into Hollywood, he continued to write screenplays, but in 1976 he died of a heart attack. In 2015, a movie called Trumbo was released, highlighting his life story. But even before the movie, he was honored in a play known as Trumbo, Red, White, and Blacklisted, written by his son, Chris Trumbo.
He decided that he wanted to make sure that his father's life story and his involvement with the Communist Party and his blacklisting, that the story was better known.
The play was performed on Off-Broadway in New York before coming out west, which is ultimately what led to the creation of the Dalton Trumbo sculpture.
So to promote the play, he did some presentations at the Montrose Library and the Grand Junction Library when I was working at the library as programs manager. And that's what kind of started the ball rolling with recognizing Dalton Trumbo in the Grand Valley.
The sculpture that was spearheaded by the Legends of the Grand Valley was installed in 2007, and it displays Trumbo sitting in a bathtub with a smoke and a pen and paper.
The way that the sculptor captured him for this particular sculpture is reminiscent of a photograph that his son Mitzi took of him in the bathtub, because he did the majority of his screenwriting in the bathtub.
And while representatives with Legends of the Grand Valley say that they are proud of their first sculpture, it was Trumbo's wife, Cleo Fincher, who was speechless.
She called me personally, and she couldn't speak to me when she first called, because she was so choked up. She said, this has really, you can't believe what it's done for our family.
And for the man who found his inspiration in a bathtub, now cemented in history where it all started. In Grand Junction, I'm Chelsea Helms for News Channel 5.
Grand Junction is known for getting the community together to make anything work. And there's one man that takes the majority of the responsibility for that. And he stands right here behind me, and his name is Walter Walker. From Walker Field to the Avalon Theater to the Daily Sentinel, Walter Walker pretty much made his mark. He was born in Kentucky in 1883 and moved to Grand Junction with his family in 1903. A few years later, in 1911, he became publisher of the Daily Sentinel and held that position for 45 years. At the time, the paper dominated the Grand Junction newspaper wars. His start at the Sentinel led to the start of what Grand Junction is today.
Walter was the pioneer who had discovered there was a great linkage between newspapers and community cultural growth.
So he took advantage of that and started to build a bigger, more prosperous empire. Some things he advocated for through his paper were the Rotary Club, Walker Field, Frontier Airlines, the Avalon Theater, Lincoln Park, the VA Hospital, and the Colorado National Monument, just to name a few. With his democratic spirit, he made all these establishments come to life.
He would get on an issue and just pound away and pound away and pound away until it happened.
Johnson says besides establishing the Avalon to create more attraction, finding the Rotary Club, and bringing a VA hospital to the area so vets didn't have to travel days for care, there was a lot more to him.
Brilliance, the ideas, and knowing how to put groups of people together and get people to buy in and make the project happen was the key to his life of service to Grand Junction.
He is known in the community as the powerhouse that built the foundation for what Grand Junction is today.
Walter Walker is the Daily Sentinel. Walter Walker is Grand Junction. Walter Walker is Mesa County. Walter Walker is the Western Slope itself.
Walker died in 1956 from a heart condition, and up until that day, he worked on making Grand Junction the best it could be with his love for politics, leadership, and the people of the city. Reporting on Main Street in Grand Junction, I'm Callahan Marshall for News Channel 5.
A man is not measured by the splash he makes in his own life.
He was kind of a quiet philanthropist. He didn't seek recognition. He simply did what he thought was right.
But rather the splash he makes on others. And for William Moyer, it's a splash still felt today.
Anyone who lives here today really gets to rewards from what he did as a businessman.
A man who is known to take care of his employees felt their loss as if it were his own.
When one of his employees' sons drowned in an irrigation ditch, he and his wife talked about it, and they decided they would build a swimming pool and donate it to the city with the stipulation that there would be 2 free days for kids in the community to swim.
For every day since 2 days a week, the pool is free, giving all kids, no matter poor or wealthy, whether they can swim or they can't, some fun under the sun.
I can remember going to that pool, and when I was quite young, he wanted to make sure that that didn't happen to other kids around the valley. And as a kid, I can remember my mother taking me every Wednesday and every Saturday to the pool to go swimming, because we couldn't afford to go during the week, but we could certainly go on those 2 free days.
The statue of William Moyer is located right in front of Alpine Bank here on 5th Street, though its placement has nothing to do with his history as a banker. But in this place, over 100 years ago, Moyer helped dedicate the area's first YMCA, another shining example of his dedication to children.
Of course, they didn't have children of their own, but he cared about what happened to kids, and especially kids who really wanted to make something of themselves. And so he started scholarships for all those children.
20 children in all. So if the success of a parent is measured by the reach of their love, Ida and William Moyer would be called great parents, even without having any children of their own.
One of the earliest really excellent examples of a great corporate citizen. I think our business community is always very generous to the community. We're really lucky about that in Grand Junction, and it kind of started with people like William Moyer.
A successful businessman, Moyer was neither ruthless nor greedy like most of his era. Instead, his practice was generosity.
When he was asked why he called it the Fair Store, he said because he would always sell everything at a fair price. There were times at the store someone needed something that Moyer simply gave it to them.
Because William Moyer wasn't a man to keep the riches to himself. Above all, he wished for a rich community. Reporting for News Channel 5, I'm Brandon Thompson.
It's the tallest building in the Grand Valley, and it can be seen all across the city. But St. Mary's Hospital wasn't always a part of Grand Junction.
Serving brand new community with, you know, maybe not even 1,000 people to the thousands and thousands of people who have been cared for at St. Mary's, I think she would be smiling.
In 1895, 35-year-old Sister Mary Babina Farrell, along with another sister of Charity of Leavenworth, left Kansas, becoming some of the first women to make a name for themselves as leaders in the Grand Valley.
That was very unusual to have a young woman come out and supervise construction of a hospital, which was critical to the area. Grand Junction was a new and growing community.
And as the largest hospital between Denver and Salt Lake City, the hospital quickly grew.
It started as a fairly small structure and then was added on to as the needs grew.
Fast forward 120 years and a few blocks away, and that's where you'll find the St. Mary's that we know today.
It was in the downtown area. We were able to locate her on 7th Street. The original hospital was on Colorado, but she is pointing toward the new hospital.
In 2010, Sister Mary was honored as the first female statue to be bronzed as a legend of the Grand Valley.
Greg Todd from Fort Collins came up with this marvelous concept of her with a child who she would have been serving at the same time she was supervising building the hospital.
And with her guiding those in need to the relocated St. Mary's Hospital, she remains with eyes of faith. In Grand Junction, Mallory Pearson, News Channel 5.
He was a man with a monumental vision.
John Otto to the Grand Valley really signifies that independent Western Colorado spirit of living.
Many say it was love at first sight when John Otto first laid eyes on the rugged red rock canyons of Grand Junction.
John Otto came to the Grand Valley in 1906, and he thought the Colorado National Monument was the heart of the world.
Whether it was writing letters to politicians, spearheading fundraising campaigns, or even collecting signatures for petitions, Otto was determined to share this beauty with the rest of the world and give it the national recognition that it deserved.
He drove the newspaper crazy and the mayor crazy and everybody else crazy. He actually committed to an asylum at one point. He was just a little on the edge all the time. That may be why he enjoyed the solitude of the canyons so much.
But many say he enjoyed the solitude just a little too much, as the depths of the canyon and the towering monoliths became his adopted home.
They describe him as kind of a loner, but not entirely alone. He actually married a lady named Beatrice, who was an artist who moved out here from back east, and they were married about 4 weeks, and he wanted to live in a tent on the monument, and she left saying she just couldn't live with a man to whom even a cabin was an encumbrance.
Ultimately, it was Otto's love and passion for the monument that truly paved the way.
John Otto definitely felt that this place was something that everybody should be able to come and see, and he recognized that they were going to come in automobiles and they needed to have a way to get up here. So Rimrock Drive was really his foresight, his vision for this place, and I think if he were here today, he would just be so tickled that all these people are able to come up and see these canyons that he fell in love with.
Building trails along the way, Otto was an adventurer by nature.
The rock formation behind me here, Independence Monument, climbed it on the 4th of July, flew a flag from it, and something that we still do today.
In the end, all of Otto's efforts paid off. On May 24th, 1911, President Taft proclaimed this vast area the Colorado National Monument.
In recent years, there's been a campaign to get the monument named as a national park. That was his long-term dream and his goal, and probably someday that will happen.
Take a walk down Grand Junction's Main Street, and you'll be sure to find unique shops, flowers, and artwork on every corner. But behind the aesthetics of this downtown lies a story known as Operation Foresight, with the authors cemented onto the very street they helped create.
It really was something that was very innovative and very exciting for the area.
It goes back to the 1950s when Grand Junction was thriving thanks to a high demand for uranium. But when the market hit a bust and commercial shopping malls were popping up in communities nationwide, city leaders looked for a way to save downtown.
So they were foreseeing that, and they were thinking, what can we do to make our downtown more beautiful, more shopping friendly, and that sort of thing.
Thus, Operation Foresight was born. Along with the committee, Dale Hollingsworth, Leland Schmidt, and Joe Lacey turned an old congested street into the serpentine style we see today.
It was really to make it more pedestrian friendly, to make parking a little more appealing, and create a nice traffic flow for parades and things like that.
Construction was a long process, but it was completed in 1962. The design, a first of its kind in the nation, won an All-American City Award that same year. It was even featured on Paul Harvey's talk show, The Rest of the Story. And now, more than 50 years later, that same design is appreciated by those who walk the street today.
It's just a nice, singular, simple, laid out strip that has a little bit of charm.
A charm that only a main street can bring.
And here is your receipt. Thank you. They've always had unique stores that you don't have other places.
While parts of the downtown may have changed over the years, the serpentine design has stayed and been the heart of Operation Foresight, much like Main Street remains the heart of Grand Junction, showcasing sculptures as a visual history of the men and women who shaped the community into what it is today.
I think it's kind of an interesting tie-in that we recognize Project Foresight with a sculpture, and that our sculptures are all part of the original Serpentine Project Foresight.
So next time you're walking on Main Street, stop at the corner of 3rd and Main and take a look at the sculpture. Thank those three faces for the street you see today. Reporting in Grand Junction, I'm Julia McGuire, News Channel 5. To the Grand Valley, the Prinster brothers are legends. But to Tony Prinster, they were his mentors.
When I was young, I worked in the stores with all four of these men, who were at that time my grandfather and three of my great uncles.
In the early 1920s, the brothers, who had a background in meat cutting, moved to Grand Junction to seek out new opportunities, which is where, in a small storefront shop located behind what is now known as Il Bistro, the Prinsters opened the first city market.
They operated there from 1924 to 1939. Then in 1939, they built a big new state-of-the-art store, which was one of the most remarkable stores in the state of Colorado at the time.
Over the years, the single grocery store grew into a chain, now known to residents across Colorado. But prior to the expansion, during the days of the Great Depression, it was their willingness to accept IOUs from teachers who were not being paid by the school district that made them known across the Western Slope.
They would take all the script from the teachers that came in and wanted to pay in script, sell them the groceries, and then they waited 8 or 9 years until the county paid the script off.
And it's this generosity that landed Paul, Frank, Leo, and Clarence Prinster a sculpture in downtown Grand Junction.
Family and the family business was an integral part of the economy here in Western Colorado in terms of the jobs they provided, the wages they paid, the people they hired, the capital that they accumulated and spent and reinvested and built.
Made contributions to St. Mary's and to schools and help youth programs, at-risk youth. There were just so many things that they contributed to.
The sculpture features all four brothers, highlighting their different attributes. Paul was the tallest brother.
In real life, Paul was 6'5", and he was primarily the penultimate butcher.
Frank was also known for his butchering ability.
Frank is my grandfather. He was 2 years younger than Paul. And Frank and Paul really were the butchers of the family. They were the ones that studied at their father's knee and learned the meat cutting trade.
Leo was known as the businessman.
He was really the driver in the business. He was not the meat cutter that these two were.
While Clarence was known as the artsy brother.
Really wanted to be an artist, but he knew he couldn't make any money in art, so he came over and joined his three older brothers in business here in Grand Junction.
All four brothers put their skills together, eventually becoming legends of the Grand Valley, still remembering the one-room grocery store that grew into a chain. Reporting in Grand Junction, I'm Chelsea Helms for News Channel 5.
Heartwarming stories, lots of great stories about our candy and family tradition.
Toffee, a tradition passed down for generations that all started with CHET ENSTROM, a name now synonymous with the crunchy, sweet treat.
Candy making was his hobby, and people just loved the toffee so much that it kind of started to consume his time.
So CHET and his wife Vernie said farewell to velvet ice cream and hello to a toffee-filled future.
When he started the business in 1960, he already had a list of followers, and people in the community were very supportive and sent candy to their friends and family, and so that's how our mail order business got started.
In just its first year of business, ENSTROM Candy Company sold 20,000 pounds of toffee, and by the 50th anniversary in 2010, ENSTROM's candies shipped over 700,000 pounds worldwide. But for Jamie and her family, the company is more than the number of boxes leaving the shipping floor.
Our toffees have become, over the years, traditions for families, a holiday tradition, and we have such wonderful stories from people that have, they tell us about their grandfathers gave it to them, and now they're giving it to their children, and Christmas wouldn't be Christmas without their toffee.
And so CHET and Vernie's legacy lives on, through the original recipe to the way a batch of toffee is still thrown today. But beyond the candy, the ENSTROMs left their mark on the Grand Valley.
My grandfather was so dedicated to making Grand Junction and Mesa County a better place to live. He served on city council, the chamber, was a state senator, was very active in trying to make Grand Junction a better place to live.
So whether it was their dedication to the community or their world-famous toffee, thanks to CHET and Vernie, the name ENSTROM is truly legendary. For News Channel 5, I'm Emily Frederick.
The man who graced your TV screens many years ago is once again the man in the spotlight, as Rex Howell was honored by community members as a legend of the Grand Valley.
Rex was chosen because he started the first radio station here. He started the first TV station, a station that was very, very involved historically in the community.
But before he was a legend, he was just a boy with a dream.
When he was 13 years old, he got interested in radio communications, and he learned Morse code, and at the age of 14 he built and operated his own ham radio operation. He went to a local radio station in Denver. He got a job as a janitor. He got interested in having his own station, which he proceeded to do at the age of 19.
Through years of hard work, Rex went from being that boy with a dream of being seen and heard across Colorado to the face of KREX.
They were the early pioneers that really helped the growth and the prosperity of the Grand Valley and Grand Junction, giving us a visual history of how the town grew.
For daughter GERRI and other family members, they know their father would be so grateful to know he inspired so many.
He would be very honored and very pleased. I really don't even have the words. It's very gratifying.
And now Rex Howell will be remembered for generations to come as his sculpture and mural has been brought to life in downtown Grand Junction.
I think this mural with Rex Howell telling the stories of the Grand Valley is a wonderful starting place for anybody who is moving here or just visiting here, or our school kids will come down and they'll be able to, in just a brief few minutes, read the beginnings of the valley on this panel.
As the 9th and final piece of the Legends of the Grand Valley, Rex Howell will live on to continue telling the stories of the Grand Valley.